So, even though Taco Bell has some good vegan options, they don't have much in the way of vegan meat and cheese. Supposedly, vegan meat is coming, but no word on cheese or sour cream. So, today, we're going to fix that by veganizing their Grande Nachos box, which has just resurfaced recently. And it's worth noting that this video is inspired by my mom as I was hanging out with my parents the other weekend, and she said, "You know what I want? I want some fucking nachos." So, I went to the store and got a few things and whipped up some nachos just like these in about 20 minutes. And they were a big hit. Now, the first thing you want to do is throw together a quick guacamole. I rarely use more than some avocado, lime, and garlic salt, but you make your guacamole however you like. I like to put my potato masher to use, especially since I have a potato ricer now, so really this is more of my avocado masher at this point. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little spicy, I'll add a bit of this El Yucateco green sauce. Sometimes chipotle powder, whatever strikes your fancy in the moment is totally fine. Go ahead and give it a chip test, and when it's where you like it, cover it and store it in the fridge while we prep the rest. Now for the vegan beef, I'm going to use my good old pal Impossible, but use whatever you like. When I made this for my family, I used these Gardein crumbles and they worked out great as well. You could even use this chorizo if you wanted, though you might not need to season the meat as much. Speaking of seasoning, you can totally use some pre-made taco seasoning like this if you want to throw the nachos together even faster, but today I'm going to make a taco seasoning from scratch. So let's get some oil in a pan over medium heat, and then we're going to add in our meat and crumble it to the best of our ability. Now, another thing that's worth noting is that when I made this at my parents' house, I cooked the beef, beans, and cheese at the same time since they're all pretty low maintenance. The beef takes the longest, followed by the beans, and then the cheese. But for demonstration purposes, I'll be showing you everything separately. Now, let your beef sit for a while and get a bit of a crust on it. Stir it around every 3 minutes or so until most of the pink has disappeared. And then we want to start adding in our seasonings. You can totally season this however you like, but for me, I added a tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of dried oregano, half a teaspoon of ground coriander, 1 teaspoon of chipotle powder, and then some salt and pepper to taste. Give that a mix, and then we're going to add in the juice of half a lime and then some water, and this is going to help loosen up the spices and distribute them, as well as add some moisture to the mixture. We'll cook that down until it's at our desired consistency, and then we're going to cover and keep warm on low. Now, onto the beans. You can use refried beans, but I actually prefer using whole pinto beans. And then what I'll do is strain off a little bit of the bean juice, but then I'll reserve most of it and cook the beans in there. Now, once we season them and reduce the liquid, we'll be left with something halfway between refried and whole beans, but you do whatever you like. For the beans, we'll be seasoning them similar to the beef, so add in 1 teaspoon of chili powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of cumin. I know I said that differently, but cumin or cumin, whatever you like. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then half a teaspoon of chipotle powder, and then half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and then of course, salt and pepper to taste. Give that a mix, and then we'll reduce it to our desired consistency, and then cover and keep it warm on low. And just a side note, this is really a dynamite way to upgrade your canned beans. Really don't sleep on that bean juice, seriously, put that juice to use. So now all we got to do is whip up our cheese sauce, and then it's time to plate up. And today I'll be using this VO Life as well as this So Delicious blend that I found at Grocery Outlet. By the way, if you have a grocery outlet near you, check it out. Some good vegan options and cheap as heck too. Now, if you've been here a while, you know I like to use this sodium citrate stuff in my cheese sauce. It basically helps emulsify the sauce and keeps it from getting all clumpy and coagulated, especially as it cools down. However, I'm guessing that just like my parents, most of you don't have this stuff in the pantry. If that's the case, you can do what I did when I made this for my folks. All I did was melt some Daya shreds, and I added in some unsweetened plant milk until I got the consistency I was going for. And actually, today when I made this, I kind of biffed it because I didn't account for the extra So Delicious cheese that I threw in there, and it came out kind of thick. So I added in some of this Oatly creamer, which was a mistake as it wasn't unsweetened, but since I only added in about a quarter cup or so, it didn't make a difference. I also added in some brine from this pickled jalapeno jar, and that was a zip-zapping good move as well, something I picked up from Lauren Toyota over at Hot for Food. So once your cheese sauce is looking good, just like that, all we gotta do is build our nacho box. And for the chips, I recommend something like this. If you're not going to make yours from scratch, seeing as these are the closest thing you can find to scratch chips, you'll have better luck at a Mexican supermarket too. If you have one of those near you, definitely hit them up. And for the Pico de Gallo, I'm going to be lazy and use the store-bought stuff, but you could also totally use some Rotel. Just make sure you drain the can first. And for sour cream, I had a hard time choosing between this Kite Hill and this Follow Your Heart, but I ended up going with the Follow Your Heart. But they're both great options. If you can find them, totally go for either one. All right, so now let's get some of those chips, and I like to try and get a little bit of beans and beef on each chip. Nothing worse than a naked nacho chip. It's just pretty sad when you get a chip and there's nothing on it. It's like, I mean, there's worse things in the world, but not by much. Anyways, so be diligent and make sure every chip has some beef and bean buddies on there. And then we're gonna drizzle on some of that cheese sauce and then simply repeat that until you've built your nacho box to your desired height. Now, of course, you can do this faster than me. I was simply being a nerd and thinking about the aesthetics of the nachos, but if you're not a nerd, then really go to town and get as sloppy as you like. And once we're all done building, we're gonna top it with some of that Pico de Gallo, then plop on a bit of that guac and sour cream, some chives, and now it's time to dig in. And friends, I gotta tell you, these were just as dynamite as the ones I made for my folks, if not better. And I told myself I would just have a couple of these and then share the rest with my neighbors. But the thing about nachos is it's incredibly easy to be like, I'll just have one more. But then that one more always turns into like 15 to 16 more. But eventually I mustered some willpower. I'm just joking. I actually got really full. So I went ahead and tapped out, handed them to my neighbors who also said that these were totally dynamite as well. But seriously, these nachos are as equally easy to make as they are delicious. So I really hope you give them a try. And if you do, please let me know how it goes. And if you dug this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It really helps out the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.